Hello everyone and welcome to round 4 of the ARL F1 2013 Season 7 Championship. It's the Bahrain Grand Prix. We're in the middle of the desert for this afternoon. And I'm Matthew Gallagher, and joining me once again in the commentary box, he's been away for a couple of weeks, is Scott Woodwith.
Yes, thank you very much, Matthew. Good afternoon, everybody. Fantastic to be back. And of course, we are here in the middle of the Middle East, here at the Sakir circuit in Bahrain. One of those circuits that's going to be very rear limited. Lots of long straights and big braking zones, which means that tyre wear, especially on the rear, is going to be pretty crucial. The high temperatures and also the increased wind and sand thrown into the mix means that grip could be at a minimum, but it should make for an entertaining race. And usually, Matty, the races in Bahrain aren't that bad, despite this being a typical Tilkedrome. So I think we could be in for quite an event here in the Season 7 Championship.
Well, I think all the viewers are going to be hoping for a better race, because Noble's already won 3 races out of 3 so far this season, and he's got a stranglehold on this championship already. So let's see how they do in Bahrain. First, let's have a look at the Season 6 podium. Noble took the victory from TRL MoNsTeR in second, with Randy McScrandy coming home in third place. The Season 6 pole position also went to Noble with a 1:29.0. Let's find out how they all did in the qualifying report.
Welcome to the qualifying comparison for the 4th round of the championship here in Bahrain. We've got RickeeyC in the Lotus on the left, Noble 2909 on the right in the Williams as we head down to turn 1 on our fastest lap from qualifying. Braking just before the 100 metre board down to first gear and sacrificing the exit of this hairpin to open up turn 2 to try and ensure they keep the throttle now down through there to maximise the run through turn 3 and towards turn 4. Braking just before the curbing on the left, and Noble, by staying in second gear as opposed to Ricky going all the way down to first, seems to have got a better run through the corner as we now enter sector 2. As you can see, Noble ahead by around a car length, but has actually turned in a bit too early for this fast right-left chicane, and as a result has to lift slightly to avoid running off the track, which would have cost him a small amount of time as they now go through the turn 8 hairpin. Pretty straightforward as they now come towards the double left-hander of 9 and 10. Very easy to lock up as you're turning and braking all the time into the apex of turn 10. The front left being unloaded all the while, but both drivers through there, no problems at all. Bit of a KERS boost and another DRS activation zone now down the back straight as we head towards the fantastic turn 11. Drivers throwing the car in third gear and using all the track on the exit before bringing the car back over to the left to take the line of least resistance through this fast sweeping right-hander. That freeze frame showing Noble still the smallest of margins ahead as we're now into the final sector. Penultimate corner is a tricky one. The key is to take a very late apex to maximise the speed down the next straight. But you also run the risk of understeering wide if you don't get it quite right, but both drivers have nailed it as they come down towards the final corner. Second gear as they chuck it in, and on the exit Ricky gets a nice clean run off the corner, but Noble has a slight oversteer moment which leads to Ricky coming out on top in this qualifying comparison and finds himself on the front row of the grid with a 29.772, with Noble just 5 thousandths behind, lining up in third.
Thank you very much once again to Harry Jacks for that qualifying comparison. Now let's take a look at how they'll line up for the Season 7 Bahrain Grand Prix. It's a rather topsy-turvy lineup, with TRL Qualy taking a shock pole position, but not in the Mercedes. As there was a graphical glitch for TRL Qualy after the patch came out for F1 2013, it meant that the Mercedes was unable to be used, meaning that Macaulay and his new teammate SE Racing Team, which we'll explain briefly in a moment, have to drive in the catering for this race. And as a result, it may give them a small advantage as they take pole position by a tenth and a half from RickeeyC, who, as you saw, was driving in the Lotus due to inequality issues with the McLaren having a longer 7th gear than any other car on this circuit, giving it an unfair advantage and meaning it could not be used for round 4. So Ricky will drive the Lotus and he lines up second, just 5/1000ths of a second ahead of championship leader Noble 2909 in the Williams. He lines up on row 2 alongside the first of the Toro Rossos with F1 X360 F1, and back on row 3 it's their teammate TRL MoNsTeR in 5th position and xMattyG in the Williams in 6th. Randy McScrandy in the second Lotus for this race will start 7th alongside Fisi in the Red Bull. Rounding up the top 10 are Big Shot player, the Greek driver in the Ferrari, and Trace92 in the second Red Bull. SE Racing Team steps in for TRL Schumacher after that driver had to withdraw from the lead due to personal reasons and starts 11th, and he starts alongside Jason97 F1 in the first to fourth Indias in 12th. The Contadins and Mazy line up in the Sauers in 13th and 14th on row 7, and at the back of the grid, HyperX Callum in the 14th in the Mercedes, and Ryan83 in the Ferrari, the only man on the prime tyres, 2.3 seconds off pole. There's the grid, now let's head out there for the Season 7 Bahrain Grand Prix.
It's race time. It's the Bahrain Grand Prix. It's xMattyG and RapidScorpion commentating for you on this clear afternoon. And Scott, the qualifying, the grid, it looks so exciting.
Certainly does, but we're already missing one car. F1 X360 is disconnecting before he's even got to the grid. So the qualifying for him was irrelevant. He simply didn't make the start. But 15 cars will line up for 29 laps of the Sakir circuit. What's going to go down in Bahrain? I'm sure we'll find out shortly. Here come the lights. Let's get ready to rock in the Middle East.
Let's get ready indeed. TRL Qualy on pole position. We now have 5 lights and away we go. On board with xMattyG and the Williams. TRL MoNsTeR going defensive down towards turn 1 already. Matty now pulling out from his slipstream. Now on board with his teammate Noble. Qualy lagging slightly in front of Noble. And Matty now coming down into turn 1. Going around the outside of TRL MoNsTeR. There's been slight contact between the two of them. And MoNsTER's had to concede position down into 5th place. Now Noble challenging RickeeyC already. Down in towards turn 4. The Lotus driver running slightly wide. That's given Noble the opportunity down towards 5 and 6. Who's going to come out best here for 2nd place? Noble still on the inside. RickeeyC hanging it round the outside at the moment. And Noble just about managing to get away with it. And now xMattyG round the outside of his teammate. Can he make it stick? Looks like he's side by side with his teammate. Noble putting his hand in the air saying what is going on. And he has lost a position down into 4th towards this very tricky downhill left-hander.
Very tricky break zone to turn 10 as MoNsTER makes the contact with the back of Randy's Lotus. There's a head onto the back straight to end towards the end of sector 2. We're on board with Fisi fan, and he's now attacking now the sole Toro Rosso. I'm pretty sure MoNsTER was feeling the after effects of being one car down already and not having that support from RickeeyC. There's RickeeyC in front, using a bit of the turbo across turn 11 as they head now towards the end of sector 2. And Noble, the man who's been dominating this championship once again, as he has been since, well, effectively last season in the Toro Rosso, is struggling in 4th place, and now coming under attack from Randy as they head down towards the final corner to end lap 1. And Noble certainly not feeling comfortable at the moment. He's not in his customary first position. He's down there as Fisi even has to lock up and touches the back of MoNsTER, and they're all going wide because they're all going side by side, and Big Shot goes to the middle of both of them and says thank you very much and takes 6th position as Tracy 92 overtakes teammate Fisi fan across the line. Now down towards turn 1 for start of lap 2. RickeeyC leaving the door open for Matty G as he dives up the inside into turn 1, and RickeeyC holding that Lotus around the outside and keeps the line and keeps the position, but getting on the switch back on the exit. There goes xMattyG into 2nd place. So Matty, after his start from 5th on the grid, he's now starting to charge his way back up towards the front, and now his next target is going to be, of course, to get past TRL Qualy and streak away with the lead.
Qualy making a great gap already after everyone's making some mistakes on the first lap. We now have a replay of RickeeyC going down towards turn 1 in the Lotus, which is the first time we've seen it this season. As you can see, Qualy lagging slightly and just about RickeeyC managing to miss the Caterham driver. And it's all clean at the front. And how about down in 13th with Mazy riding the curb and hitting the back of SE Racing Team, his first race of season 7. Then Mazy losing his back end and down into 14th. Now Trace in the Red Bull losing a couple of positions round the outside. It seems like that was the fastest way round turn 1. And Trace going onto the curbs as well, and that's enabled Contadins a run on him round the outside. Can Contadins outbrake Trace? It didn't look like it into that corner, but now through these complex of corners it seems like he was quite close. Now MoNsTER coming under attack from Randy. So MoNsTER, who had a reasonable qualifying, now down into 6th place. So not a very good start for him, and he's going to have to try and regather his thoughts as Fisi hitting the back of him, and that's where he loses another position to Big Shot, who said thank you very much, up into 6th place in the Ferrari. And this is now Contadins being overtaken by SE, and it's overtakes galore as we go down towards turn 1, and Mazy and Ryan getting very close, and Mazy not being able to get through that turn 2, which is a very tricky corner for the drivers because the traction, or trying to find the traction with the rear tyres, is very tricky indeed, as TRL MoNsTER now trying to regain the position that Big Shot took around the final corner on lap 1, and Trace now down in 9th place in the Red Bull. He's going to want to make up a few positions as he has the pace to potentially get up into the top 6 or 7. As he's saving a bit of curves maybe towards the final corner and the long straight, and RickeeyC following xMattyG and Qualy still looking strong out in front.
Definitely great strong pace from Qualy in that case, and very surprising indeed as Tracy gets sideways on the exit, and that's an open invitation for teammate Fisi fan to dive up the inside to take 9th position from his teammates. So the 2 Red Bulls will run line of stone. Just ahead, Jason 97 F1 is battling away with TRL MoNsTER, and that's over, of course, 7th position. Back on board with Champion Eden at Noble 299. They exit the final corner, back onto the pit straight to start lap 3, and his teammate in RickeeyC and Noble running line of third, but now, with the help of Kurz down the pit straight, here comes Noble past Ricky. He may even get alongside Matty into the breakers, and last of the late breakers for the two Williams. Down the inside goes Noble. Matty's going to try and stick it around the outside, but he's left his teammate too much room, and Noble, that was an easy pass to second place, you have to admit, with the fastest lap of the race in the process, a 1:33.569. Now Ricky looking to the inside of Matty to relieve him of another place, down towards turn 4. But this time Matty has the line covered and he's far enough in front to stay in front of a Lotus, and the Irishman has to settle for 4th place with his teammate Randy McScrandy just behind him in 5th. Back with Fisi now, heading through turns 5 and 6, and now we look just behind with Contadins. He gets it over the curves and slightly out of shape, and now having to fend off SE Racing Team as he makes a move up the inside of turn 7, and he's been pushed wide, I think. And that has meant that the Ferrari driver is through. And here comes his teammate Ryan around the outside down towards turns 9 and 10. The very tricky breaks them. And there goes Mazy up the inside of ST Racing Team. Overtakes Galore, as you said, Matthew, all over the place in the bottom end of the field. Of course, the points only go down to 10th. These guys are fighting for best of the rest. It's incredible fighting. And only on lap 3. Here's some replays. And this is the Contadins diving up the back on the inside of ST Racing Team. This is where it started, Matthew. And just continued on from there, as we see MoNsTeR on the back of Big Shot, but under pressure from Jason97 already. And there goes Big Shot, exit stage left, and that's exactly the reason why he dropped back down through the field. And he's now battling, of course, for the lower run for the points and trying to get himself into the top 10. But at the moment, Matthew's having a rather hard time of it.
I was wondering why Big Shot was down in 10th place, and then we just saw that replay of him losing it out of turn 2. A very tricky corner, as I mentioned earlier. Now this is Matty on his teammate Noble. He got completely and utterly humiliated down this straight on the last lap by Noble, taking 2 cars on one straight. And Matty, not thinking that Noble would be able to get him down that straight, managed to outbrake him into turn 1, and Noble up into 2nd, and I'm sure he's going to be looking for 1st as there's 3 cars going through turn 2. That's just about worked. I was about to say it isn't going to work, but they've managed to just about get away with it, with I think the Force India cutting the corner to avoid contact, as we're now on board with Fisi in 8th place, following Jason, and I believe that is a Toro Rosso of MoNsTeR potentially. So not having a great race is TRL MoNsTeR at the moment. He's falling on a... Yeah, there's a Toro Rosso. Yeah, he's falling away from the top 5 and coming under pressure from 7th, 8th and 9th. So yeah, here we go. And he's locked up as well into the downhill left-hander. That's going to enable Jason to get a run on him and go straight past him. There's DRS zone here as well, so we should see the Force India fly past. And there we have it. Down into 7th is TRL MoNsTeR now. The man who was fighting for 2nd in the championship last season is under pressure here in Bahrain, and Fisi may well want to have a go as well, with 3/4 curves to use out of the final corner, I am sure, as we're now back on board with the front runners, and RickeeyC in 4th place. Qualy still strong out in front with a 2 to 3 second gap with Noble in 2nd, and Matty's going to have DRS on his teammate, so I wouldn't be surprised if Noble comes under pressure again, as Contadins, who had a good move into turn 1, I think, on the past few laps, it now takes Ryan into the final corner, but he's now, well, he might potentially get DRS depending on where the detection zone is. And here comes Matty on his teammate up the inside down towards turn 1. Noble has to concede the position just purely because of the straight line advantage Matty had there, and Matty going slightly wide and now losing his back end, and Noble says thank you, I'll take that straight back from you, and back up into 2nd place. And this is crucial because the next few laps are when the drivers are going to be thinking of pitting, and you can see the drivers are starting to struggle, especially Matty as he squirms out of turn 4, and these guys really are going to have to start thinking about whether they want the undercut as Ricky loses his back end, maybe potential contact with Randy there. And it's going to be interesting to see who dives into the pits on lap 5 for a potential undercut. And if Macaulay's going to stay out, then that could enable one of the Williams drivers, or even RickeeyC if he stops making mistakes, to have a go at the Caterham driver.
The trouble is with this circuit, because it's so rear limited and corners like turn 10 there, you have to put so much focus on the rear of the tyres to keep the wear in them and the grip, as not overheat them too much, to make sure that they last as long as possible. Now, watching a replay of TRL MoNsTeR, as finally he stops marching towards the back of the field and begins to march back towards the front. In some ways, as he gets back past Jason97, and this is now the 2 Red Bulls going toe-to-toe out of the final corner, and side-by-side also. And this is Trace Me to the inside of Fisi, and this is Fisi's view of it, down into turn 1, and makes the move stick. Small bit of contact as Trace Me came across the Norwegian's nose cone, but manages to keep on track. Now back on board with Noble, and looks like he's going to be pitting end of lap 5 into Rich Mix 3. Indeed he does. So, Noble is the first to blink. Matty's going to carry on for another lap, even though he's due to pit this lap. TRL MoNsTER's also in, as is Trace Me. So the pit lane becoming a hive of activity as the Williams boys go to work on championship leader Noble 209. A quick stop. He had to be held because TRL MoNsTeR was coming for his pit stop. 4.5 seconds at 3.6 seconds. That's now game time, thankfully, for Fisi, for Trace Me, but also TRL MoNsTeR had to be held as well because both Noble and Trace Me had to come out of the pit and go past. And so to prevent an unsafe release, the Toro Rosso boys had to make sure they had to hold their driver to make sure there was no penalty at all. And so MoNsTER's come back out in 13th. And those rear tyres really are cold as we see MoNsTER struggling for traction. Now looking to the back of the field. That's Big Shot struggling at the back. Now, what on earth's gone on with Big Shot there? Because he has had some real problems throughout this race. And as you watch Mazy go past his old teammate, HyperX Callum in the Force India. And you want to see exactly what's happening. Now, I'm not sure what's gone on with Big Shot because he was sliding down Mazy, whether or not there was some kind of penalty, as Ricky goes wide at turn 10. So obviously his tyres are past their best and using all of his curves to try and make sure he stays ahead of Jason 97 F1, but that task shouldn't be too difficult as he has got quite a gap to him as he's yet to stop, and of course Jason has been further back in the pack. This is Noble in 10th. He's of course the leader of the first stoppers, and this could be potentially the first time that we see this season, Matty, that this is a two-stop race. Rather than drivers going out there doing one stop, these guys are potentially going to be looking at doing two stops for the first time this season. So it means making more than one trip to the pits, and that could possibly throw a spanner into the works for some of these guys who are maybe expecting to try and make these cars to go run longer. Normally we usually run 3 stops, but to run 1 stop less could make the difference as we see both xMattyG and RickeeyC and a whole hive of cars, Jason 97 and Fisi fan, all in the pits at the same time.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the strategies are, but I think it might well be a 3-stop still again, but we'll see as they come into the pits now. Matty is going to lose out potentially to his teammate, but Noble was held in the pits for a 4.5 second pit stop. There's his teammate. So Noble, who obviously came into the pits that lap earlier for the undercut, unfortunately did not get that on his teammate, really, as that's MoNsTER diving up the inside of turn 1, completely missing his braking point. Trace has gone back through, and now Fisi's surely going to get back past as well. And it looks like MoNsTER's using some curves to defend, as Matty now running wide, trying to push on the back of his teammate, but he's gone wide. Now Randy's going up the inside, now they're side by side. Matty's just about managing to hang it round the outside and maintain the position. That's crucial if he wants to stay with his teammate Noble, who I'm sure we're in clean air is going to start to set some very quick times to catch TRL Qualy out in front. But Noble really not looking particularly comfortable at the moment, as you said earlier, he's not in his first position. He didn't qualify particularly well, down in 3rd. I mean, it would be good for quite a lot of the drivers, but not for him. And this is the replay of his teammate Matty coming out the pits, just missing out to his teammate Noble, who got held in the pits. Otherwise he probably would have been a lot further down the road, as Ricky now coming out the pits as well. Is there any incidents down into turn 1? No, takes a wide line, then runs wide, as the cold tyres means his braking is not particularly efficient. And that's MoNsTER going straight on at turn 1. He is having a torrid afternoon here in the Bahrain Grand Prix, and he's going to lose potentially another position. Well, that's where Fisi pressurises MoNsTER down into turn 4. MoNsTER just about managing to get away with it, and Jason having a look at the pair of them, trying to take advantage of any mistakes they make. And this is the Contadins, who is technically in the lead at the moment. He's gone 7 laps on the options. I'm sure he has been struggling to keep the car on the track, as it looks like he was about to set a 1:36, which is quite a bit off the pace. And this is Fisi down in 12th at the moment on his fresh set, and Contadins coming into the pits for a fresh set of primes. And yeah, a 2-stop probably is going to be the best strategy around here, Scott. And I think the undercut is probably going to be the key for who's going to win this race, as Noble sets a 32.9. So much quicker than MoNsTER's fastest lap at the moment, who is fighting Fisi down into turn 1, and Fisi's finally got past. Is Jason going to have a look as well? Doesn't look like it, as the Contadins negotiating turn 1 as well. And here comes MoNsTER. Is he going to try and get back past Fisi? No, but anyway, Scott, as I was saying, sorry, yeah, I think it's going to be crucial to see who blinks first. It was Noble who blinked first for the first set of stops. Well, Noble probably going to have to blink first again for the second stops.
It's pretty interesting as we watch now Mazy defending from Qualy here, who's technically in some ways still the race leader, although I don't believe Qualy's pitted yet, or if he has, he's certainly... I think he has, yeah. I think he has pitted, so he's actually retained his lead, which is rather impressive from the Caterham drive, and in fact, still waiting on Mazy. He was one of those few cars that started on the prime tyres. A couple of guys at the back of the field, including Ryan, elected to start on the prime tyres apart from the options. And we see here Qualy just blasting past through the right-hander of turn 12. Just managed to make the move stick, and here comes Noble. Look at how much pace Noble's got already. He has caught up onto the back of Mazy CZ, and he's almost making it look like he's a sitting duck down towards the final corner. Look, it's that breaking stuff and getting very close to the back of TRL McCauley, running slightly wider, getting slightly out of shape on the exit, and that's just an invitation for Mazy CZ to just repass him on the straight. Look at that, using all of his curves and gets the recharge across the line with DRS, but Noble has it also. So it's now kind of a drag race to see who's last of the late breaks into turn 1. Noble's going to try and fight it around the outside, but Mazy holds the line as Randy pumps in a 32.818, and a shaky exit from Mazy allows Noble to get the better run with Kurz, emptying almost all of his tank. And here goes xMattyG now in 6th position on the back of HyperX Cal, another driver yet to stop on those very worn hard compound prime tyres, and he's up to P5, and there's his teammate and Mazy CZ just in front as he flicks down to standard mix 2 to save a bit more fuel as they head through the complex of turns 5, 6 and 7, and the very sharp braking zone of turn 8 as we now go on board with Fisi Fan chasing after MoNsTeR, who, has to be said, must be feeling the pressure of being the only Toro Rosso. It means it's all down to him to score points to try and keep a decent haul in from the Bahrain, with of course F1 X360 disconnecting after the qualifying session. He simply never made the start. RickeeyC in P8 after he pissed off, and his teammate Randy experiencing all sorts of connection issues. First behind, then in front, and then back behind again. So some lag spikes going on there with Ricky's teammate, and what would of course would have been the McLaren. But of course, as explained in the qualifying results, the McLaren has an unfair advantage here around Bahrain with equal cars online, where for some reason you can set the 7th gear to about 7 or 8 kilometers an hour, miles per hour longer or higher than any other car on the grid. As Fisi Fan runs wide at the final corner and big shots out of the race. And he was struggling earlier on, but his race is now done for the day, and he is now disappointed. No points for him, and no points towards his tally for Ferrari, as the two Lotuses go into combat into turn 1, and Randy gets the move done on his teammate for P7. And now Fisi Fan under attack from SC Racing Team, as he puts his hand up and saying, "Come on, lad, give me some room out of turn 1. The track's wide enough for all of us," and Essie makes the move. And now we're looking at TRL McCauley, as now he's trying to get round Ryan 83. He's technically the race leader, but hasn't pitted yet. He's been held up down towards turn 8. And McCauley goes deep into turn 8. That's open invitation for Rand Noble. He gets up the inside and effectively has taken the net race lead as Ryan is yet to pit. That was a huge mistake, and of course I feel in some ways by Ryan, whose tyres look to be way past their best, and he's really struggling out there to hold on to his track position. As here comes Noble to the inside, as we saw Matty was battling with Mazy out of turn 10, and into the braking zone they go, and Noble is now of course into the actual race lead. But that was pretty key for McCauley. But just to finish the point on the McLarens, they're able to go about 7 or 8 kilometers of miles per hour higher in their 7th gear, which basically means that on the straight everyone else will be topping out halfway down the straights, but the McLaren could just keep going for another 7 or 8 miles an hour. And of course that's an unfair advantage, which basically means that they have to just push on and have to use the Lotus for this race, which was quite overpowered in the first couple of races. But after the patch, Matty seems to have been just nerfed a bit more, so it doesn't have so much of an advantage in online conditions anymore.
Yeah, that's true, Scott. I mean, yeah, I think most of the cars, if not all of them, are within a tenth or two of each other. So I think a lot of the drivers were happy to see that Codemasters had indeed created a patch that meant that we pretty much do have equal cars. And this is Matty now, right on the back of Ryan, who has gone to the right to potentially go defensive, but Matty with a much better straight line speed with a bit of slipstream from McCauley as well, and he gets very close to McCauley and has actually hit him, and McCauley's gone wide, so Matty's going to have to concede that position back. And McCauley really braking very early, and Matty just trying to, I think he's trying to get out of the way of McCauley, but thinking this is not a good place to get out of the way, as McCauley's probably thinking, can I have that position back? But McCauley, I think he's running high small brakes, so that means he's a little bit more vulnerable into the braking zones, but it means he locks up less. Speaking of lockups, Matty locking up through that downhill left-hander, meaning that McCauley's now going to get onto the back of him, and Matty should indeed let McCauley back past. Now he comes off the throttle and lets McCauley past, and McCauley had a bit of DRS as well just to help him. So now McCauley back up into second, and as these two are fighting, Noble has absolutely gone at the moment. He's 4 to 5 seconds down the road now, it looks like. So Noble back in the position that he well and truly loves, and that is out in front, doing a Vettel-esque sort of drive now. It's only lap 11, so we've got 18 laps to go. So Noble will be trying to extend that lead out in front, as Mazy is now coming under pressure from Randy, who steams up the inside of the final corner. And Ricky, who has lost that position to Randy, is now going to try and get past Mazy as well. And we've got someone in the pits that looks like Randy looked like he was going to go into the pits and then changed his mind, or he's going defensive to Mazy, who is coming very, very close between Randy and Ricky as well. Randy's gone off. Mazy's really getting involved in a fight that he shouldn't be getting involved with, if I'm completely honest. And he's gone and pushed Ricky pretty much off the track and into the desert. And Ricky really not being given any room whatsoever. And Mazy and Ryan really were getting involved in battles that weren't theirs, which has really cost TRL McCauley a possible race victory at the moment, as he is down. Well, he's out of first position now, and he really lost 4, 5, 6 seconds potentially, as now Trace running very wide on the curbs. But McCauley really has been upset by Mazy and Ryan, who went longer on the primes and decided that they were going to get involved in a fight which really wasn't theirs. And Trace, who's that? That's Mazy going wide again, so his tyres are completely gone now, and he should be coming into the pits anytime soon, as Trace and TRL MoNsTeR, who is in close proximity, goes past Mazy as well. So Trace and MoNsTeR look like they're having quite a good battle for 5th position, and it looks like we're going to get a replay of Matty overtaking McCauley. It looks like, is it McCauley giving Matty quite a bit of room into turn 1 and now 2? McCauley having to give the position to Matty. So McCauley this afternoon is going from, well, what was quite good to now down into 3rd place. So he was looking at his maiden victory at one point, and now he's down into 3rd, and potentially he could lose even more positions and find himself off the podium, Scott.
It is a shame. It was a great qualifying effort, as you said, and of course now he finds himself just tumbling down the order. And we're getting a view here from RickeeyC of the contact between Mazy and Randy, which eventually saw Randy kind of exit stage left across the runoff area at turn 1. He's back on the road, and of course having to struggle on to try and catch up to his teammate and the Stabber, who of course I believe is still yet to pit on those prime tyres. Back now with TRL MoNsTeR, the only Toro Rosso left in the race after Qualy disconnected before the race starts, and he now glides past race 92 as Mazy does finally pit, just as we talk about him, onto his first set of the option tyre. That's the medium compound tyre for Bahrain, and away he goes with a race 6 stop from the Stabber boys. And we look back now to the battle for 5th between MoNsTeR and Tracy 92. Toro Rosso versus Red Bull. They may be sponsored by the same energy drinks company, but they're still rival teams and rival drivers. And MoNsTER's been run deep. I think there may have been a slight bit of lag bubble which caused a bit of contact between the two drivers. And then looking back to the second Red Bull, the Fisi fans looking ahead. That's Jason 97 F1 in the Force India as they go through. Now, I'm pretty sure Fisi just jumped up to P9, so has someone gone off at some point, which we haven't seen? It might be the contadins, in fact. It has been the contadins. So we didn't see it on screen. It must have been just off somewhere, off camera. In fact, it was SE Racing Team. I'm being told in my apologies for that. SE Racing Team was in the gravel, which is what saw a jump in position. Then back to the front with P2, and here comes TRL McCauley with the straight line speed and the aid of DRS and potentially Kers. And look at how much of a straight line advantage he has. As on the run towards turn 1, Matty will slot in behind and close in, and ever so slightly nudges the rear diffuser of that Caterham, which of course should be the Mercedes, but thanks to the graphical errors which TRL McCauley was getting with the Mercedes after the F1 2013 patch that was brought out by Codemasters, it means that for this race only, both him and SE Racing Team is making his comeback, replacing TRL Schumacher, having to use the Caterhams, and of course it seems to at least have worked to his effect, to his advantage, because it did give him pole position. But right now he is scrapping over what is going to be an incredible result if he can manage a podium on what is only his 4th race, I believe, in the top tier of ARL F1 2013 League action. And he's having to fend off one of the best in the business, xMattyG, and he's leaving the door wide open on the exit of turn 10, all over the curves, but somehow his exit was good enough. Must have been with the use of Kers, with DRS and Kers. Here comes xMattyG. He's in Lee Mix 1, doesn't even need to go to it. Lee Mix 2, and up the inside at turn 11, and gets the move done for the moment at least. So Matty back into P2, but you have to feel, Matty, that if McCoy's going to stick close, he'll get DRS again, and think that these two will be fighting all the way until their next pit stops, which could be potentially coming up very soon.
Yeah, I think the Williams driver didn't really want to go past at that point because McCauley ran wide. And who's that running wide as well? That's the Force India of Jason, 97 F1, losing a position down into 8th place. But yeah, I think MoNsTeR didn't want to go past at that point because really there's a massive DRS straight past the final corner, sorry. So really it's better to get your move done down into turn 1 than it is in the last sector. So Fisi fan in 9th place at the moment. As you can see, as you said about the pit stop, Scott, it looks like it's getting towards that phase at the moment. We've got 14 laps to go. So really, they can't really pit just yet because I think their tyres will be a little bit gone by the end of the race if they start pitting with, well, 14 laps to go. And who's that going into the wall? That's a Sal. That's not Sal, but that was Randy, it looked like. So yes, lost connection to Randy, but it's Randy. So Randy has left the Bahrain Grand Prix after hitting the wall, and I'm not sure how he's lost it right there. He must have hit some sort of curb because there are a few, well, let's say naughty curbs around Bahrain that actually spit the car out through no fault of the drivers, really. And you just find your car facing the wrong way through no fault of your own. And that's Matty diving into the pits now, as you just saw. He's in red fuel, so he is minus 1 lap of fuel at the moment as he dives into the pits with 12 laps to go. He's going for a fresh set of primes, and that's going to be quite a struggle towards the end of the race. But he's going to get that undercut on TRL McCauley and Noble 2909, who has a 3 to 4 second gap out in front at the moment. So he's not really pulling away, is Noble. So, and that's TRL MoNsTeR getting held up once again. This guy cannot get any luck in the pit lane. After a 5.5 second pit stop, he's now at a 4.2 second pit stop. When is he ever going to get a 3.1 second pit stop? Who knows? But the Contadins going past Jason up into 5th place, just behind Fisi fan, who is now in 4th after a few drivers pitting. So it's quite difficult to work out where their net positions are. But TRL MoNsTeR, who is effectively in last place at the moment, I'm sure he did not expect that coming into the race. And Trace still ahead of MoNsTeR after the last round of pit stops. And just deciding whether he wants to put it in rich or standard. And it looks like Noble, the race leader, is going to come in for a fresh set of primes as well. Lap 17 going on to lap 18. He puts it into rich just to get that extra bit of time into the pits, and now down into lean as SE Racing Team loses connection and leaves the race, and RickeeyC dives into the pits as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see where the drivers such as McCauley, who I think is in the pits as well, and Matty, who has gone for the undercut, feed in to where Noble and Ricky come out.
Of course, we see the Red Bull guys also going to work on Fisi fan 91. And of course, now this means it's additional pressure on TRL McCauley, because it now means that he's in a similar position to MoNsTeR, in that their team are down to a single car effort. As we see a fantastic battle. Look at this. Callum and Tracy side by side, both with DRS wide open in turn 1. And that's Tracy with the move done past Callum. But MoNsTER's luck continues to run out as he can't get the move done himself as quickly. He does pull to the inside, and with a better straight line speed on the exit from turn 3, gets his nose in front. Or has he? Because Callum comes back at him on the braking out on the outside of turn 4 and is almost still there, but eventually has to concede 9th position to the Toro Rosso driver. Now back to the Contadins, who's actually in the lead of this race, yet to make his second stop, and he's out there circulating in the lead, getting a bit of track time, a bit of camera time also. And now we see the two Williams running almost line astern. Noble ahead of Matty, the familiar sight that we see those two in tandem, usually running up at the front without a care in the world and not being challenged by almost anyone. As MoNsTER now goes to the inside of Trace 92, he wants to try and finally banish this Red Bull behind him, but unfortunately for some reason he can't get it done. On this occasion he does though. For the moment, Italy Mix 1 as Trace is in the dirty air of that Toro Rosso. That'll be hurting his front end grip and the aero grip that he's getting, so that'll be affecting the balance of the car as they head into the third sector through turns 13. And now in standard Mix 2, now he is in the slipstream. And now Contadins, the Italian, is into the pits for his second stop. So maybe not so much a 3-stop strategy today. It's going to be more these guys are out there for doing 2, as we normally said. And here comes RickeeyC inside of Ryan, who is again running on the alternate strategy. And he's got himself up into dizzying heights of 5th position, in that Ferrari at least. As an xMattyG, you can tell how hard he's pushing in the slipstream of his teammate, puts in a 1:32.426. That's the fastest lap of the race so far with 10 laps to go. That's the effect of fresh tyres and a lighter fuel load than it was at the end of it, at the beginning of his second stint. So that's the advantage of burning it off as much as he has. Of course, the downside of that is he needs to manage it very carefully, because when he came in for that second pit stop, he was on red fuel. He was minus 1 lap of fuel. Now it remains to be seen. Not only can he possibly keep pace with teammate Noble, can he also keep his fuel in there as Mazy one hell of a save through turns 5 and 6, but that's costing the position at the expense of TRL MoNsTeR. But unless Mazy can get the better exit with its made of curves on curves, he can do it. And unbelievably, MoNsTER's been passed. No, he hasn't, because MoNsTER sticks it straight up the inside into 9 and 10 and gets the move done. And now this time Tracy's trying to follow him through the traffic, gets the RS on the Sauber, and also so Mazy has got it on TRL MoNsTER as well. They head down towards turn 11, almost 3 wide down towards the braking zone. And can he get the job done? No, he can't. MoNsTER sticks it round the outside and holds on to place. As now Mazy's now trying to do what he can on those worn tyres. Not the one, because he's just pitted. Trying to get them up to temperature. But a great job so far from what was near the back of the grid to P7. But he's getting a big hurry up from Tracy as they head down towards turns 14 and 15. The initial right-hand is then the kink, which takes you back onto the pit straight, where they'll start lap 20. So an epic scrap going on for 7th position, and Mazy already, and that's MoNsTER, already starting to gap both Mazy and Tracy. But now the Red Bull will have DRS and a little bit of curse usage. Mazy going defensive, but he leaves plenty of room on the outside, forcing Tracy to go a long way around into the braking zone on turn 1. And it's been done before, and it'll be done again as Tracy gets the move done. The Red Bull up into P7. So Mazy's fallen back slightly, but that later pit stop may put him instead. He's on the better tyres, but of course he's prone to possibly come under attack unless he has to stop again and make it 3 stops rather than 2.
Brilliant move from Trace, I have to say, down into turn 1. Very confident indeed, round the outside of Mazy, who will have to pit again, I'm assuming, because there's 9 laps to go and he's on the option tyres. So it only went 5 or 6 laps, so yes, Mazy's going to have to do another stop. So that's going to put him well down the field, if not in last position. So Mazy getting involved with some fights now, but really, I don't think it's going to matter very much, as he seems like he hasn't got his strategy very well. Oh gosh, and there's been contact between Callum and Mazy, and Fisi's been caught up in it as well. 3 cars being caught up with Mazy having, I'm not too sure what he was doing there, to be honest. It looked like he turned into Callum, probably with those worn option tyres, and that's caused Callum and Fisi to be hurt a lot more than Mazy has, as he's driven off. And these two down in 11th and 12th now. Mazy looking back thinking, what have I done? And he's actually going to wait for the drivers, but he really should just go into the pits and get a fresh set of primes, because he's a bit dangerous at the moment, to be honest. He's down into 12th anyway, and he's going to have to pit again. So Mazy absolutely nowhere now. After really, he's impacted this race. Noble's got a good lead. Well, he did, and that's the replay. So he did just turn into Callum, not knowing he was there really by the looks of things. Just coming across Callum, and Callum had nowhere to go. Fisi also had nowhere to go. Straight into the gravel was where he had to escape to. But Mazy really has got involved with fights that he shouldn't have, as I said earlier, and it's impacted on Noble being in the lead and Qualy down behind RickeeyC now. So Ricky up into 3rd. Bit of lag going on there, it looked like, as well. So Qualy just behind, maybe just over a second behind. Is he going to get DRS after this downhill left-hander? One of the trickiest corners, I'm pretty sure, on the calendar. It is very easy to lock your brakes into that corner, as we've seen many times already this race. And Callum going wide before this downhill left-hander. Is Fisi going to have a look? It's not really an overtaking position, but we did see three abreast almost down into this corner. He's sitting back, and now he's going to get DRS, and he's got 3/4 curves to use as well. Is he going to decide to go past now? Yes, he is. He's going to save half of his curves for the long straight before starting lap 22. But Fisi up into 9th place with contadins just down the road, maybe 5 or 6 seconds, catching the curb. So that's one of the curbs that I was talking about, where really just a light touch has caused the car to really kick out very viciously. So he's going to have to watch that in the next few laps, especially when the tyres start to go off, as Mazy comes into the pits for a set of option tyres, I'm assuming, with 7 laps to go. That's Callum just ahead as well. So Callum on the same strategy as Mazy. Those two will be fighting for the single points paying position, and Noble just about getting away from Matty now, as he pitted a lap earlier, meaning he's got probably a 2 to 3 tenth advantage at the moment, what with those 1 lap fresher prime tyres. So Matty settling down in 2nd place at the moment, with quite a gap to Ricky and TRL Qualy behind, Scott.
But the big question now remains is that what is the state of xMattyG's fuel load? Of course, remember when he came into that 2nd pit stop, as we mentioned, he was on -1 lap of fuel. Now, has he used that time dropping back? And we see Tracy locking up at the 2nd to last corner. There's the kink, which technically is a corner at turn 15, but holding on to 5th nonetheless. As now we've got Contadins going to Rich Mix 3 to chase after Jason 97 F1. He is in range with DRS. We'll stay with this battle before we continue the point about Mazy. And look at how much of an advantage Contadins has with just DRS. But Jason 97 is being valiant in his defence, but not valiant enough as he might get it done. Now then, whoa, that's like Mazy catches the curve. One of those dangerous
Noble.
curbs that we talked about. It's Noble, in fact. Noble's made the mistake. I do apologise. It's Noble, the race leader, feeling a little bit of pressure and actually clips the curb, which spits him out across the AstroTurf. And now it gives a small ray of hope to xMattyG, as the two Williams cars will go into combat once again. It's not the first time we've seen them battle each other, especially in this race at least. But, of course, as we're talking about, the big question now remains is that is xMattyG's fuel load in such a state that he can get to the end of the race without running out? If he does, it is a -1 lap of fuel by the time they start the last lap. He'll have to drive very carefully and hope that the fuel gods up there somewhere are smiling down on him, and hopefully he can get that car to the end of the race before it splutters to a halt. But we'll have to put our fingers crossed that doesn't happen. Remains to be seen as contadins still battling away with Jason 97 F1 through turn 11, with Jason shooting up the inside and getting the job done. Back with the leaders, and Noble has now dropped himself into DRS range for xMattyG. There it goes, rear wing comes open. We've seen the advantage that some of these cars will have in a straight line with DRS. Into lead mix 1 in the slipstream, back to standard mix 2 and under brakes. Closes in, but not close enough to get and make a move. Slightly a bit too deep and grabs the curb on the exit of turn 1. But still, the two Williams cars, the dominant force once again, and really thanks to both Noble and Matty making the switch at the beginning of the season from Toro Rosso to Williams and bringing that car right to the front of the field once again. Back with contadins as he continues his scrap with Jason 97 F1 and still cannot get around the Englishman, as the Force India remains in front in P7. Now we look back to third place to RickeeyC. He's 3.8 seconds back on xMattyG, but coming under attack from Qualy. The man who started on pole position and could have possibly been in contention for a race victory, and close to the two Williams had he not been held up. And these two are now going toe to toe for the final podium spot. It seems as though that almost it is going to be a Williams 1-2, but so we have to kind of look as to what's going to happen with turn 3. As again Noble hits the curb. And he almost loses it, but his quick reflexes make sure that he keeps that Williams pointing in the right direction. And Matty, every time he sees Noble make the mistake, he can smell blood, he can sense that Noble's struggling a little bit. He's just getting inching closer and closer until he can finally try and make an attack. He is able to get into DRS range, as we've seen, but of course, as the great Mario Walker once said, catching's one thing, passing's most certainly another. He has got DRS down his back straight, the second of the two DRS zones, I should say, around the lap. And we just get further around to the end of lap 25. And Matty closing in a little bit more, but Matty, as he heads to the final few laps of the race, he's on -2 laps of fuel. He's on rich mix as well. If Matty's going to get into the lead, he'll have to put on some serious fuel conservation, because if not, he's going to be in serious trouble come the last laps of the race.
I think it's because his teammates won every single race so far this season, and Matty's really pushing now to try and get in front of Noble. He needs to get in front. He's put it up into rich fuel mixture now. This is for the lead. He's gone up the inside. Matty now takes the lead on lap 26. So Noble has come under pressure after hitting a few of those curbs, and that has caused Matty to get right onto the back of him, and he's now taken the lead of this race with 3 laps to go. But as you said, -2 laps of fuel, so Matty is now going to have to do some extreme fuel conservation if he wants to get to the end of the race. And Noble, who we saw earlier on in the race with -1 lap of fuel, may also be struggling with his fuel. There you go, -1 as well. So both of the Williams drivers are struggling for fuel, but they've got quite a bit of a margin to Qualy and Ricky behind, but those two are no slouches. So if these two have got, Ricky's actually well known for saving fuel for the end of the race, so I'm sure he'll be running in fast or standard at least towards the for the last 3 laps of the race, and he's pushing very hard to try and get past Qualy. These two working together, but Ricky's hit the curb and he's now run wide, and that means he's lost touch with Qualy. I was going to say he's probably going to have a good chance down into turn 1 with DRS, and this is Noble who's going to have a good chance as well. He's saved pretty much all of his curves. He's up into optimal. That is crucial for Noble. He is back into optimal, meaning he can push just slightly to get back onto his teammate, and he is now. Matty squirming out of the final corner, and Noble now retaking the lead. He's got past before DRS has even been enabled, because Matty has to save fuel. He's on -1 lap of fuel now. He's back up into standard. He really should be saving this fuel, and he's really got no hope of getting past Noble if he's going to stay in standard, because he's going to simply run out of fuel. So he's going to have to somehow think this through. And he's got to save fuel and get past Noble, which is probably the hardest combination of things you could possibly think of, and locking up as well. And this is Matty starting to get frustrated, as he knows if he probably had the fuel he could stick with his teammate, but because of pushing earlier on in the race, it means he cannot now towards the end. So Matty now probably losing touch with Noble, and it'll be interesting to see if he can stay within DRS. This is a replay of Ricky and Macaulay. And this is actually on the last lap. This is before Ricky made the mistake. So that's how Macaulay got past Ricky. And this is a replay of Mazy going up the inside of Callum for the final points paying position. And so these guys can race quite hard, and I'm sure they will, even if it was for 15th and 16th. And Mazy gets past Callum this time around, and this is Contadins on the other Force India driver going up the inside up into 7th. It looks like if he can make it stick into turn 1, and he has indeed, but he loses the back end slightly. But Jason has absolutely nowhere to go, as a track is not very wide through turns 1 and 2. And now back on board with Fisi, who's worse. 1 lap to go, including this one. And so, well, his tyres look pretty much in shape, so he's going to be fine. Noble starting the last lap of the race. What is this gap to his teammate? 3.3 seconds. Matty is in ultra fuel conservation mode now, going into the last lap, Scott.
And surely, if Macaulay's not too far away, and also for Ricky's bit, but there they are, look. I'm pretty sure that's Matty in second place as a result of fuel saving. And that has now meant that TRL Macaulay could potentially get himself a podium position, second place here, and his best ever result, and only his 4th ever F1 league race in ARL. So this could potentially be the thing, could potentially be a great result for the Caterham driver, but of course it could be heartbreak for Matty. Just how much has he got, is able to bring that Williams car round to the finish line and get it across the line and hold on to second place? Can he defend from Macaulay? Can he defend from RickeeyC? This is going to be the crucial one. But now I'd say about a third to a halfway around the lap. He's on lean, locks him into turn 10. He's feeling the pressure. He knows what's at stake here. You can see he's struggling. And there is TRL Macaulay, and there is also RickeeyC. Back in the standard mix 1. Putting it back into the mix 1 to assure that. And I'm pretty sure he's praying with all his might to get that car across the line. He really wants to hold on to second place. Through turn 11 and up towards now through turn 12 and 13. The end of sector 2. And this is going to be so close, Matty. Is he going to be able to hold on? He's now got literally one more corner to go. Can he make it stick? He's got no more DRS either. It's run out of fuel. They're all running out of fuel because RickeeyC's low on fuel also, and Macaulay. Down towards the final corner they come. And I'm pretty sure nobody's got the race victory, but here they come, Matty.
He's chugging. Matty's chugging. That means Macaulay's now going past him. And Ricky as well. As you said, heartbreak for the Williams driver. He was lost 2 positions around the final corner. After all that pushing to try and catch his teammate Noble and try and win this race, it's actually backfired on him completely, and he's lost 2 positions around the final corner. Absolutely devastating for Matty. Brilliant for Macaulay and Ricky, who get podiums. And Macaulay, a brilliant second place for him. What could have been, I'm sure he'll be thinking, as I also heard that he had a 5-second lag spike, which means he was put, but that's the reason he was put behind Ricky in the first place, which unfortunately we didn't see because we don't have a point of view. But this is a replay of Noble coming over the line to take what is another victory. And this is, you can just hear the engine now, the chugging of the Williams. And the pain I'm sure Matty has right now, trying to put his foot straight to the floor. And this Williams just didn't want to do anything, Scott.
He really didn't, and that is just one of the worst sensations for any driver, is that they're running out of fuel and just being so helpless as the driver streamed past and he lost out. But at least there's one Williams on the podium, and it's a man we've come to expect at the top step of it. Noble 299, Willie's now his 4th race victory of the season, and it looks as though it's probably going to be the status quo all over again. Here's the results of the Bahrain Grand Prix. What a race it was. And of course, we have our same old winner. But of course, take a step, Matty, because of course, we had that big change at the end. But only 12 cars finished the race, but it was a fantastic race nonetheless.
Only 12 cars. Noble taking the victory from TRL Macaulay, who inherited second place round the final corner, and Ricky also inheriting third place after Matty, who finished in 4th, running out of fuel and only 3/10 off the podium. I'm sure he'll have something to say to his team about putting maybe a half a lap extra fuel in next time. TRL MoNsTeR finishes in 5th after a very disappointing race for him. A lot of mistakes in the Toro Rosso. Tracy92, a very solid 8 points for him in 6th place, with the Contadins finishing in also a very strong 7th place. Jason97 F1, the rookie, in 8th place, scoring 4 points, with Fisi Fan down in 9th, with Ryan taking the final points paying position. So Mazy and Callum both missed out, and so I'm not too sure, because I thought there was only 11 drivers at that point and one of them was racing for a point, but it seems like someone was just not appearing. And the rest of the drivers unfortunately did not finish, with Big Shot retiring. And the Drivers' Championship, Noble 100 points out of 100, with Matty, his teammate, in 2nd, once again with MoNsTeR in 3rd. So Scott, it really looks like, you know, status quo as it was last season.
Yeah, most definitely. Of course, the maximum score, as we said. But it's getting interesting for second place. Of course, Matty losing out those points, meaning it does keep MoNsTeR in the hunt with just 2 points separating the Williams and Toro Rosso drivers. Randy in fourth despite his disconnection, of course. Ricky and Macaulay have definitely jumped, especially Macaulay. That was some much needed points. That second place, those 18 points to go with it, have really boosted his championship chance, his points tally, I should say, and definitely should keep him up in the top step. And that could potentially be a crucial result. If he doesn't get any higher results, that could have possibly just kept him in for season 8. Should the rest of the guys below him not manage to get up higher through the standings. Constructors Championship, well, Williams still lead it, but of course they could have got a hell of a lot more had Matty managed to hold on to second place, but they still have a rather sizable lead of roughly around, I'm trying to work this out in my head, that's about 88 points, I think, between between Williams and Toro Rosso. McLaren, of course, are now equal, but of course, even though Randy and Ricky were driving in Lotus cars, they still score points in McLaren, as of course this was only a one-off thanks to the nature of Bahrain and the glitch with the 7th gear, and Red Bull in 4th also. But of course, we now start the European season, the Spanish Grand Prix in Catalonia, and of course it's a circuit that is very favoured for testing, but nonetheless should provide hopefully a fantastic race. Are we going to get sun? Are we going to get rain? What will greet us in Europe? Who knows, but it's going to be fascinating as we head back to the continent once again, Matty.
Should be a great race. Bahrain, the qualifying produced a spice with Macaulay taking pole position, Noble down in third, but Noble taking the victory once again. Will he make it 5 out of 5? Find out next week at the Spanish Grand Prix. I've been Matthew Gallagher, and thank you very much, Scott, for commentating with me today.
Always a pleasure. I'll catch you guys in Europe.
See you next week, guys. Bye-bye.